Live here at Three Nations Brewing in Carrollton, Texas. Enjoying some drinks, talking about some soccer. This is our second segment of our final episode. And with us today is Raul. You'll have to forgive me. Huh? Hernandez. Sorry. Wow. Brain fart. Raul is
Dustin is on his second beer. We
haven't even started it.
Almost.
Right
This episode is brought by Mango Smash IPA by Three Nations. Thank you.
We got no sponsorship money for this. All right, so this episode or this segment will serve as our North Texas SC review, season review. Nico Mendez has been covering North Texas for third degree. Raul works for the team itself. So we got lots of stuff to talk about with North Texas. And let's start off with a new league. So it's a new league for North Texas, right?
That's right. MLS Next Pro, not MLS Next.
MLS Next Pro. Okay. I misspoke in the last segment. I'm being corrected here. All right, so tell us about that league, Raul.
It's a development league for academy players and players looking to get that bounce into a first team contract, maybe in the same season or in the near future. It's pulled players from all over the world, and it seems like it's going in the right direction so far. Exciting league to watch.
Awesome.
In that name, Next Pro, are we stuck on that, or are they taking suggestions for new names? Because
are you running like a social
marketing
program
person? I'm an accountant, but just from a branding perspective, I think we could do like a fan poll or something, maybe, right?
Yeah,
it's our last contribution as Dallas Soccer Show to the greater soccer community.
We could do something like Bodie McBoatface.
MLS the show, or I don't a Vegas thing.
All right, Nico, what was the difference over this season between this league and the USL league that they were in?
You can take that in many directions to answer that question head on.
Take it in all the directions.
To tackle it head on, I mean, like Raul was saying, it's a new league, but at the core of it, the goal is still to have developmental players that FC Dallas views as of value to the organization, get them some competitive minutes, not necessarily at the MLS level, but at a professional level. And so really this league also has a bunch of other MLS teams in there. So it's really kind of the league's reserve league. It's really it falls, what did they say when this first came out? The third tier in the soccer pyramid. So comparable to USL League One. Raul's giving me the head nod, so I'm somewhat competent. So that's kind of really the biggest difference going from USL League One to MLS Next Pro, is that this is a little bit more of an MLS-centric focus league. And with that, the one of the kind of the biggest talking points from the North Texas perspective was kind of the quality of the competition that the team faced. So really one of the biggest things that was pretty evident was the veteranness of some of the players. So when you're playing in USL League One, you're going against teams like Chattanooga Red Wolves, Greenville Triumph, where they had some veteran players. It's a very physical league. And so those guys got some kind of not necessarily the competitive minutes that North Texas and FC Dallas wanted these young players to get, but also kind of some of that. Okay, you're going against some guys that are nearly twice your age that have no problem shoving you to the ground. But from kind of a top view level, the overall goals still maintained, or they were still the same in comparison from last year.
Okay, so set the stage for us for this season. Your idol, Eric Quill, is no longer with FC Dallas. He's moved on. Or sorry, with North Texas SC. He's moved on. New coach this season. Tell us a little bit about all of that.
I don't know about Eric Quill being my idol. I mean, he was absolutely great, great person and great coach to talk to. I mean, he's closer to me now. He's as an assistant with the Columbus Crew. But enough about Eric Quill. You mentioned you mentioned how there's kind of a club change, and very much similar to FC Dallas and Nico Esteves is where there's a new era coming in. For North Texas, I'd argue there was even more of a new era. I mean, brand new coach and Pan Uduka coming from the Canadian Premier League, and then an absolute, almost total roster overhaul for North Texas SC. And so, at least from my perspective, sitting in the virtual press box, was how do you get all these new players and literally less than a handful of players that still stayed from last year? How do you get that chemistry going? With a whole bunch of a brand new coach, a brand new team, a brand new head coach for FC Dallas, is the whole organizational structure and kind of the chemistry and the methodology that was there with Eric Quinn and Luchi Gonzalez. Is that going to change? And for me, that was really one of the more interesting stories to kind of follow along. Was how, okay, in the beginning, it's a team coming together. Everyone has these individual talents. But something that Coach Ka had emphasized throughout the year is that he has a squad of players. It's not just a group of individuals, and seeing how those individuals kind of mesh together throughout over the course of the season, especially something that unfortunately I didn't really get to spend a lot of time or get to share with readers, was the off the field aspect. So I mean, talking to these guys post game and during some media availability throughout the week, was how they built chemistry off the field through different team lunches, team dinners. I know that the North Texas media crew front office did some excellent stuff with some content with players' birthdays. You got that crossbar challenge between the coaches and the players. That was really fun to see. Dizzy penalties. So little stuff like that, I think, was kind of a nice thing. So I do have to give some credit to Raul and his team there. Is not only did FC Dallas kind of go into this new era aspect, but so did North Texas SC.
So looking back, so Nikki, you mentioned the turnover, but I remember talking to Matt Denny about that at the beginning of this year, and it feels like that is not really something new this year. It feels like every year this club has had a huge turnover from a personnel perspective. So it's almost just like that's what this club is going to be built on. I have a question for Raul. Like when you look back at this season, are there any like huge takeaways? I mean, like, is there the one thing that you say this season was successful because of one big outcome?
I would say the academy players stepping up was probably one of the big successful things of this season. I mean, look at Tariq Scott, just got announced today. He scored the brace in the season opener, and then he started in the Western Conference semifinal against St. Louis on the road, something that's not easy to do at the ripe age of like 17, 16, 18, whatever he is. But I think the academy players stepping up whenever we needed those rosters gaps to be filled in, and starting and getting those minutes, it made it seem like they were ready for the next level.
One of the things that North Texas SC was kind of known for, and then like he was touted under Lucci and Eric Quill, was just how close the two teams were off the field, like on the training field. So like they'd pull one player over, like the systems were very similar, and they just really tried to kind of make it a seamless experience between one team and the other. Between this season, between the new coach in Nico Estevez and the new coach in Mamadou Ka, like how did that look this season? Was it as seamless, or were there some struggles along the way, Raul? I mean, you're around the team every day, so.
Some of the ideology was the same in some aspects, but there was a little bit of like bumping heads. But overall, seemed like it was pretty seamless. Like all of them working together, like all the Texas players would see the FC Dallas players training after their session was over. They would talk to the players. Seems like everything was good. All the chemistry between both teams was nice. They were all communicative with each other, just working together, talking ball, getting knowledge from each other. So I think it was pretty good overall.
So
So I mean, so one of the key things for MLS Next Pro team like NTSC is to bring players to the first team, and I think this year we've already seen 2 officially announced. I mean, do you guys have any insights around? I think we saw the trialist number 12 from Abilene come up from a high school player all the way to being a first team player. Are there any? I mean, when you look at the progression from a player perspective, there either one of you guys, Nico or all, are there any players you say this year was a really big breakout year for them? They whether they moved up to the first team or they were successful within NTSC. Are there any big players you'd like to highlight?
I think the most obvious one is probably Bernard Kamungo. I mean, John Arnold at the very beginning, when he was a trialist, like you said, did a great cover piece on him. Then seeing Bernie really take over this season. I mean, he finished second in the league scoring with 16 goals. So that's absolutely impressive as well. Hope Aveyevu, absolutely clutch. Perhaps a bit more quieter than last year, where he's a little bit more of a known, but him tying, I'm looking at the stat sheet right here, tied for third in most assists in the league with 9 assists. An absolute quiet but very, very productive player right there. And of course, Jose Mulatto, what a piece coming in right there. Those are probably the obvious. Maybe a little bit more indirect would probably be Antonio Carrera, getting some play time there as goalkeeper, dubbed La Muralla as well, the wall. So I think him also stepping up, getting some competitive minutes at the beginning, a little bit rough, not too surprised there, but really kind of growing into his own and also getting some youth national team call-ups right there. How about for you, Ro?
I would say Bernard, for sure. I mean, those 2 guys broke records for clubs. I mean, Bernie's all-time leading goal scorer. Hope actually tied the club record, career record, actually, to be exact, which I think he'll break next season, of course. I mean, also, like you said, Antonio, he was really impressive in his first year as a pro. Won 2 extra point shootouts, I believe. Saved 2 PKs in the last extra point shootout he had against Colorado. I would also say Nolan Norris. He stepped up big time in a couple games. Had impressive long balls, and passing overall. Build up from the back was impressive by Nolan, keeping us calm under pressure. So
the season, it didn't, it didn't look on paper and like as an outsider, like so somebody who didn't necessarily pay very close attention. They were in USL League One. They're one of the top teams this season. They come in 5th. Like how important? Like, I mean, of course they want to win, right? But like, is it as a big a deal to not win or not be in the top 2 or 3 of MLS Next Pro as it would have been to be in the top 2 or 3 of USL League One?
I think that's an interesting question. You might have seen Raul and I chuckle right there. And I think that's 100% dependent upon who you ask. So I know Eric Quill and Pamuduka would give different answers to that question. Pamuduka was very focused on, I mean, hey, I got to develop these players. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're all professionals. We want to win. And so he did instill that mentality into the team. That probably doesn't answer your question directly, but I kind of do want to draw attention to the fact that over the 4 years of North Texas SC, I mean, the first season winning USL League One, the second season is the pandemic season, finishing 3rd. I mean, arguably that's a playoff spot right there, barely missing out on USL League One final. Last year making the playoffs as well, and then having that heartbreaking game against Chattanooga Red Wolves. I mean, and then this year, same thing with St. Louis. I mean, Buzz mentioned in the last segment kind of how FC Dallas they peak, then they go through those summer months, and then they kind of try to find momentum again. I mean, very similarly, North Texas kind of went through something like that, and they did find momentum towards the end of the season. So, I mean, taking a step back and looking at, I think one of the more impressive things with this club is the fact that they are able to remain competitive with the roster turnover that's way more familiar with this team than FC Dallas, and even with the coaching changes as well.
Tristan, were you excited to see Santiago Ferreira get some minutes with North Texas?
Yes.
Very cool.
No, I like it when they use it as a way to. I mean, it was created to combat losing players like Weston McKinney and some of these academy kids. Like, let's not pretend like they're going to sign somebody who's going to go on to become an MLS MVP or a starter for the national team. They're going to sign an academy player like Pepe or Ferreira and use that as a stepping stone. And so I think it's good that they're still using it that way. I think this is a team in a league, or a team that's finding itself in a league that's still trying to find itself as well in the whole landscape of changing U.S. soccer. And so, yeah, these are the type of questions you have to ask is, what do you evaluate success by versus the trophies, right? Because those can be at odds with the purpose of the club at the same time.
All right. Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the way the season ended with Mamadou Ka and kind of some of the drama that was there. I know, Raul, you work for the club, so maybe probably may not be able to speak too much about or speculate, but we're kind of coming from the fan stuff. So if you want to sit this one out, we understand. But why don't
Wink twice if we're on the right track.
All right. Well, I'll throw this one to Nico. Nico, what happened? What happened at the end? Just Mamadou Ka parted ways with the club. We lost Raul. Okay. Well, he's back. I thought the protest dropping.
You said the magic words.
All right. So from a journalist perspective, Nico, why don't you tell us what happened there, and then we can kind of start the conversation that way.
I think I think the cop out there would be, I definitely recommend you to Buzz Peters and Dan's episode on Third Degree, the podcast, where they kind of talk a little bit more about this. Yeah, I think that probably gives some really quality insight from a different perspective. Obviously, the perspective I have was very different. I saw it from the weekly media availability and the post game, so I didn't get to see. I personally never firsthand saw what has been stated, or I guess whatever you're alluding to.
That's the worst answer ever, Nico.
There's no fair there, man. We have to try.
I mean, I'm missing out on I'm missing out on that.
Last chance for a hot take, Nico. Last chance.
Last chance. Oh man, I mean, I'm missing out on that Three Nations beer. Maybe it's something in the beer that I'm missing out on. But I guess what I will say is Eric Kuhl and Mamadou Ka are very different in their coaching styles and coaching approaches.
I would completely agree with that. So speaking of coaches, I know, Raul, you were going to come here and just announce who the new coach is. I know that was your plan today.
Yeah, can we get a scoop for our last episode?
Could you go ahead and just write it on a piece of paper and show it to us? All right.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, NTSC looking for their new coach. I think they've got it down to a couple of key candidates, but have not yet announced who that is. So hopefully we will hear very soon on who the coach is for NTSC next year.
All right. Last thing, what can fans expect, Raul? What can fans expect for North Texas Soccer Club next season in 2023?
Some good football, hopefully. This new coach that we get, I don't know when we'll announce a coach or when we'll even get a coach, but hopefully it's some good football and exciting football. I mean, we got some good players that are staying for next season, and we hope to add more players that will build onto that structure of play.
Are you announcing Garrett Melser? That's what we really want to know.
Garrett Melser is in attendance right now. We can ask him right now.
It's a 2-year option for 2026.
Sign Garrett, Melser, and Rowe.
He can't hear this.
Hernandez.
He's,
That's what
he's
we
in a
want to hear.
conversation. We'll find out later whether he's going to play for NTSC.
It's a 2-year with an option for 2026 as of now. So
All right. Well,
There you go.
all right. Well, that I think that'll. Unless you guys have something else you wanted to put on the end of this conversation, I think that'll do it for our North Texas SC section. 2022 in the books for North Texas SC. New coach in the wings. We'll see what happens there. Raul, thank you so much for hopping on the call with us. Appreciate you. We're gonna take another quick 5-minute break, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna look ahead at next season with Sam Hale from FC Dallas Radio. We're gonna look at, what does FC Dallas need to do to improve upon this current season. So we'll talk to Sam next. Stay tuned.